Welcome in, everyone, to another edition of GC Live Talking Tuesday nights, heading into week 2 of the season now for the Gamecocks. I'm your host, Mike Yuva. Intern Joe, everyone loved him on Saturday night. He'll be hopping back on with us in a little bit. We will head to the phone lines shortly as well to be able to hear from you guys. We're going to have the comments section. See Michael already sending a message in. Appreciate it, guys. This is awesome. Okay, this is awesome that we're able to do this, be able to continue to get you guys ready for another week of football for the Gamecocks as they get ready to take on Arkansas. T saying no sound. I got intern Joe. Joe, you can hear me, right? Thumbs up. Thumbs up. Joe can hear me. T, check out your audio. If anyone else has any issues, let me know. Again, we will get to the phone lines in just a little bit. But there's so many things I want to get into before we head to the phone lines. First and foremost, look, it's just one game, okay? The good, the bad, the ugly, if there was any ugly during those times that we saw this past week, it's one game, okay? We're not going to – there's a lot that needs to take place before we even get to Arkansas, never mind a whole season. So that's the first thing I'd say. The second thing I'd say, too, is with this offense in particular, I understand the offensive line concerns. I understand the offensive playbook, the scheme, the concerns about that. I get that. Okay, if you have those concerns, I'm not going to be able to say anything that's going to change your mind about that. Or maybe I will be able to, and I'll explain in just a little bit. The other thing, too, is just the impact special teams, the impact of some of the younger guys that we saw this week. Was just absolutely incredible. Very, very, very promising when you're talking about some of the freshmen that got out there and had an opportunity to move the ball around, whether it be from an offensive standpoint or especially a defensive standpoint. You know, shout out to Irmo. Seeing what Nick did out there, the big 2-1, phenomenal performance out there. Huge stop on fourth down early in the game. Just shows you the confidence that this coaching staff has with him. But let's go back to the offense, because I know that's going to be a topic of the conversation tonight. Going to add Joe in here for a minute. And Joe, keep the audio down if you could, if that thing starts ringing before we head to the phone lines. But I want to say this. I understand the concerns about the offense, okay? What I will say is this. There's a quarterback by the name of Tom Brady. He played for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, plays for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. In his first couple games, things were not sunshine and rainbows for the Buccaneers. They went on to win the Super Bowl. Even the greatest quarterback of all time, there's growing pains. There will be growing pains. So I say that because, now granted, look, okay, phenomenal defense. They had a great defensive performance throughout the playoffs. But my point being is this. Give it time. Don't just look at one game and that's just how the offense is going to be this year. It's just not going to be that way. I'm telling you, it's not going to be that way. We will see progress with this offense from week 1 to week 2. If you've been following my work over at Gamecock Central, if you were on last week on GC Live night, Talking Tuesdays at night, we mentioned that there was going to be growing pains with this offense. It's just natural that it's going to happen. So I think what we will see this week, I'm not saying necessarily that South Carolina will go out, score 30, 40 points. What I'm saying is I feel like from a timing standpoint, first and foremost, we're going to see an improvement there. We're going to see a timing standpoint with guys being able to be more in sync, right? From whether it be just running routes, whether it just be with the offensive line being in a place where Rattler understands where the guys are going to be. It's not Oklahoma. No. I think we're going to see that on display more than anything this week, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, I was at the pressers today. Spencer and Joe Vaughn and Eric Douglas, they all were talking about, it's growing pains. It's week 1. They understand that. They all noted that. And they're just looking ahead to week 2. They know they got to go on into a tough environment in Fayetteville and perform really well. And I mean, everyone talked about it. It's like, it's week 1. Just got to move on, learn from what you did and carry that on into next week.
Yeah, and T brings up a good point. I mean, this was the same offensive line that gave North Carolina some issues. Look, I think the big thing is that it's easy to be able to just look at one game and look. That's what we do, right? Whether it be fans, whether it be media members, that's what we do. We react. I'm not telling you not to have concerns about certain things. Certainly, I mean, I was a little surprised that they weren't able to stretch the field the way I think some of us expected them to be able to. I think I was a little disappointed, even though a good run defense, a team that should be competing for a Sun Belt title this year, if not finishing in the top three. I say that because I was disappointed that South Carolina wasn't able to establish at least a more consistent run game. I know it wasn't necessarily the game plan, but when you needed to be able to run the football, when you needed to be able to get those short yardage situations and convert, they weren't able to do that, Joe. That's the only thing that really bothered me about the run game. I'm not going to nitpick here about the offensive line like some people want to. I'm not going to nitpick here saying, because look, it's much more than the offensive line. I bring up Rattler because from a timing standpoint, Rattler probably got out of the pocket a little bit too soon. Steven Garcia even brought that up on other shows, that's probably one of those things that happened, but that just comes with time. That comes from comfortability. You've been going up against the same people in practice for weeks. Now you go up against another team, different players. It's all going to be different from a timing standpoint. They finally have tape now as a unit, this offense. They finally have tape now where they can go back against a different opponent and be able to figure out, okay, what worked, what didn't. Because you're going up against Joe every day in practice, whether it be on offense, defense, vice versa, right? If I'm on offense and Joe's on defense, after a while, I'm going to know what Joe's strengths are. I'm going to know what his weaknesses are, and vice versa. You're going up against a different team. That's what happened this week. And I think some of that exposed some weaknesses for sure. But at the same time, too, I think it's going to strengthen a lot of those things that South Carolina is not too far off on.
Yeah, I mean, this week, also another unique test in KJ Jefferson. They talked about it all day at the pressers. Just you can't really game plan for a guy like that. There's nobody on the scout team that's 6'3", 243 pounds and can move, run, throw the ball, do it all really. So I mean, seeing a different team like it's great. It's good to get against somebody else that you haven't been seeing for the last couple months. And I think they've got to toughen up, tighten everything up too going into Arkansas because again, they have guys like KJ Jefferson that are no joke.
So. Yeah, and I like this comment that Kevin brings up. Going back watching the wide receivers and the tight ends, there were missed blocks on the perimeter, Joe. There were plenty of missed blocks on the perimeter. You can't have that. You can't have it. So we can sit here. We can overreact a little bit because that's what we do. We did that certainly on Mixing a Water Monday. If you don't know what I'm talking about, every Monday we have a former Gamecock that joins the program, and we go back and we watch we just talk about the film. We talk about the film. We talk about the game itself. We look forward, and John Strickland was phenomenal. So if you haven't had an opportunity, go check that out as we continue to expand our video platform over on Gamecock Central. Joe, I'm going to disappear you for a minute. We're going to release the hounds. We're going to release the hounds, and people can start calling in. I'm going to post that number for those of you who don't know what that number is, and you guys can call on in if you want. Joe will be with us throughout the night as well as we are here for week 2 of GC Live Talking Tuesday nights. And we'll talk about anything that you want. If you guys do have concerns, if you do disagree with some of the things I'm saying, that's all right. That's okay. Let me know. Let us know. If you want to just submit a comment or you have a question or whatever the case may be, you can submit that comment on the side and we will share that and we can discuss that as well. But here's the number for anyone that is interested in calling in tonight. We appreciate having you guys on. Very excited to be able to do this with you throughout this season. And we're going to continue to expand video content over on Gamecock Central. The guys have been doing an outstanding job. Kendall, our everyone. So very excited. This is just the beginning when it comes to video content as far as GC goes. Let's talk about special teams here for a minute. Shane Beamer gets a lot of credit, right? Naturally. Beamer ball. He should. But a man that deserves to be getting a lot of credit right there with him, if not in my eyes, just a little bit more, is Pete Lembo. Now, at the end of the day, Beamer has to invest in bringing a special teams coordinator. And that's what he did. That's what he did. He invested in having a coach whose one job is just to focus on special teams. Lembo has done that. Lembo has been able to do things with his special teams units, not just units that haven't been done in a long time in South Carolina. I'm talking about being able to block kicks in ways that we have not seen in a long time, if ever. I posted this on Twitter yesterday. In the first 14 games of the Pete Lembo, Shane Beamer era, South Carolina has blocked 6 kicks. 6. In the previous 49 games, this goes back to the Birmingham Bowl 2016 season. In the previous 49 games, South Carolina blocked 6 kicks. We're seeing a difference. We're seeing an impact. And the reason why we're seeing such an impact is because players want to play on those units. They see the value, right? I mean, look, you're going to have other fan bases poke fun at your coach. That's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. Get used to it. That's a good thing. That means people are paying attention to what's going on in South Carolina. That's the way I look at it. So they want to do that. That's fine. By Beamer jumping up and down, I think the way I worded this last night was as if he just got the golden ticket to go to Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. What that shows you is that he cares. If he cares, the players are going to see that. They're going to want to care. They're going to see the excitement it brings on their head coach's face. They're going to see the excitement it brought in the stadium at Williams-Brice. That's not just a video of seeing a guy jumping up and down like he's like a little kid going to Disney World for the first time. No, there's a reason why he's doing that. Because he cares. And the players see that. They sense it. I've played on different teams. I had different special teams coaches. There's guys that didn't care about special teams. They said they would. Every coach in America says they care about special teams. You need players to truly, truly believe that you believe that. Beamer believes that. Lembo believes that. Players want to be on this special teams unit, the punt block team. And it's not just punt block. It's kickoff return. It's kickoff. It's punt coverage, whatever the case may be. Go look what happened in the LSU game. 2 block kicks. 2 block kicks. Changes games. Clemson, even last night. 2 block kicks. Teams that block a kick go on to win that game 90% of the time. Not a surprise that South Carolina won the other night. For the people saying things about the offense, this and that, the offense wasn't great. It wasn't. And I would even say that, shoot, you didn't have a guy like Spencer Rattler who, did he play one of the better games of his career? Certainly not. But at the same time, too, as he continues to feel things out, he was able to do things that if this was a couple years ago and you don't have a quarterback that has the skill sets of Spencer, I'm not even talking about the arm. I'm talking about the feet. If you don't have a guy like that, I don't know if you win this game if those block kicks don't happen. I don't. I think you're right in the mix of that. Joe, I don't know if you necessarily agree with that, but I feel like that could be a situation where South Carolina may have walked away as the losers in that game.
Yeah, I mean, special teams clearly was the key on Saturday night. And Pete, it was kind of funny at the press conference today. Pete Lembo was walking through the hallway, and Steve Fink was trying to keep him out of the room because he was so excited to come talk to the media after what his special teams did. So he talks tomorrow. It'll be pretty interesting. Never a dull moment with Lembo, so I'm excited, and I think everyone else is too. And I mean, again, Kai Kroger talked a little bit today, just about what it was like playing for him. And it was huge, really. Kai was saying that they don't necessarily understand every reference that he makes, but when it gets into I think he said over 100 some odd years ago, they have to pull up YouTube, which I mean makes sense. I wouldn't understand that many references from 100 some odd years ago either, but Lembo being the character that he is definitely helps out the team and in the building too. Keeps everyone on their toes, keeps it loose. So yeah.
One thing I want to ask you, Joe, as we go through some of these comments over here on the side, we see Will Lumbo as well as Clayton White and Torian Gray are absolute rock star coaches. We need to hang on to them for a long, long time. I agree with that, Will. I think what the reality is Lembo at some point will most likely dip his toes back into the head coaching world. Clayton White, I think if you had to tell me just based on those coaches, and Lembo has experience of coaching as a head coach, especially at the college, football level. But of those guys, I think Clayton White would be the next guy up, and then Lembo after that. It's difficult. It's difficult to be able to keep guys in place. And now, granted, we're only 14 games in. We're only 14 games into this era, especially when you're talking about these guys that have been on this staff. But that's just the reality of it. That's the reality of it. And it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. Now, as a head coach, your job is to do whatever you can to be able to keep those guys in place there for as long as you can. Again, I know people hate this when I make comparisons to Clemson, but that's why they've been able to be as successful as they have been. They were able to keep a nucleus when it came to that coaching staff for a long, long period of time. It helps in multiple facets, not just on the field when you're talking about X's and O's. You're talking about culture. You're talking about recruiting. You're talking about everything, every component of it. So that is something that will be critical to be able to do. I don't think it's necessarily something you got to worry about right now. If South Carolina has a tremendous year, both on special teams and defense, I can certainly see both those coaches getting raises because you want to let them know how much you value them, how much you see them being a part of being able to create something successful in South Carolina, Joe.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean Clayton White, clearly he's done a whole lot in recruiting, and then I mean even in Sterling Lucas's first year, already proving his value with Tree Balbalade and a couple of those other guys. The hashtag trenches thing is unbelievable to me. Like I love that, and just that energy that's coming out of the defensive line room. And I feel like the culture around this program too tends towards players that want to recruit and like want to host guys when they're visiting and stuff. And I mean, I love that. And like again, going back to Sterling Lucas, a guy that's been in the NFL for the last 10 years. It's so valuable to the staff obviously for football knowledge, but too for recruiting. Like you see a guy that's been through that, like been at the highest level of football. I mean, I definitely want to come play for him. So I mean, with that, and then obviously give him the raise, show him that you want to keep him in the building and want to keep the culture moving on into the next couple years, as long as you want to keep going.
Yeah, Lady Bree brings up Jody Wright. Jody Wright is incredible. And he's going to be an awesome asset. Awesome asset. I do want to bring this up, though. Everyone keeps saying, here we go again. And I say everyone. The comments I've seen on the message board, over at GC, the comments we see on social media, here we go again from an offensive standpoint. Again, if you're just joining us, it's one game. It's one game. Slow down. It's one game. I do think it's important to point this out, other than the fact that you have Spencer Rattler and, Juice Wells, who I think is going to be a superstar on this team. Never mind the fact that Christian Beal-Smith, you'll have him back at some point. I can tell you right now the plan is for Corey Rucker to be back in the next couple weeks. You have that, but you also have something that people are overlooking. You have Freddie Kitchens there. Now, I know some people could be like, oh, Freddie Kitchens, you see what he did with the Browns? Yeah, guess what? This isn't the NFL. He's not a head coach here. You know what he is? He's a hell of a coach. He's worked with some phenomenal quarterbacks over the years. He's done some great things from an offensive standpoint. That's what I see. So if there are flaws in this offense, and certainly there are some right now, but again, it's week one. Timing's not there. You have a new quarterback trying to figure things out. You have an extra set of eyes there. And I do believe that will make an impact over the course of this season. Again, if you want to call in to the program tonight, do so. We had a lot of people checking in last week on the post-game show, GC Live post-game. Appreciate everyone that joined us with that, but you can also call in same number as the number was last week, and I'll pop that number up for you in case you are watching at home. You don't have the comment section, or you don't have an opportunity to keep up with it as much. There is the number. You can call on in. Keep intern Joe busy tonight. Intern Joe, he's trying to stay busy over there. He got his cleanest shirt on top of his hamper for this. He's ready to go. He's looking good. Joe, we're gonna dip you away for a second. Let us know if we get any of those calls. But I do want to hear some of your thoughts, though, on what you heard today, because I know you were at the press conference. Had a chance to be able to listen to Shane Beamer as well as some of the coaches. One thing I do want to bring up here as we talk about special teams, Kai Kroger. I mean, holy freaking cow, the performance that he had the other night. I mean, we could talk about Mitch Jeter as well, and we will. But Kai Kroger, how about this? Since 2019, that 79-yard boot by Kai, who, by the way, congratulations on his honor, the Ray Guy National Punter of the Week today. That 79-yard boot is the 9th longest since 2019 in college football, in FBS. And in his last 8 games, he has now had at least one punt of 70 yards or more 3 times. 3 times. This is a guy that is incredible. He's incredible. He's changing the game. What Mitch Jeter did in his first 2 field goal attempts as a collegiate kicker, incredible. Absolutely incredible. But the question now is, how is he going to respond to this? I think he's going to respond positively because he had an opportunity to learn from one of the best who's ever done it at South Carolina. That's Parker White. But to go out there and have 2 50-plus yard field goals in your first 2 college attempts, make a 53-yarder, make a 51-yarder. Pretty good. Pretty good. Love to see that. But Parker White, I know he'd be very proud. Speaking about special teams guys that used to play for South Carolina, I had a chance to run into Joseph Charlton before the game. He was out there. I can tell you, him, Donnell Staley ran into him. A lot of the former guys were out there. It speaks volumes of what Beamer's trying to do. And the former players want to be part of that. Even guys that didn't necessarily play for Beamer in this coaching staff. Again, that number is 803-567-3797. You can join the program tonight by calling into the show. Intern Joe is with us as well. We appreciate you guys tuning in for GC Live, Talking Tuesday nights. And we'll be able to get into some of the thoughts that Joe has, because Joe was at the press conference today with Shane Beamer and the players. So we will get to that in a little bit. Seeing some comments here from Kevin. I think the investment of the university has made with the NIL and stadium upgrades with the coaching staff can lead to a lot, especially with the playoff going to 12 teams. I agree with that. Joe, I'm going to take this first call here. We can get and the call is ended. Give us a call back as we work through some of these kinks here with our call-in system. But you know the number. Give us a call back. We apologize for that. Again, we'll put that number up because I do want to get into what Kevin, I agree with you. I agree with you wholeheartedly that it's going to be beneficial for South Carolina. Again, that last person that called us, we apologize. Give us a call back, and we will get you on the program as we work through some of these kinks here.
We're live with Eric. We've got Eric. Go ahead.
Yeah. Ready?
Yeah.
Hey, how you guys doing? I'm in the Ozarks of Arkansas, but I am a Gamecock. I'm 63 years old. I was there for the George Rogers against Oklahoma State. And so I'm a true Gamecock fan. And I went back and watched the Carolina game, particularly the offense. And I watched nothing but the defensive line and linebackers. And they had a lot in the box. And they did wreak havoc. And it's tough when you got that much coming at you. Almost every play. I'd say 70%. Now, I went back and watched the Cincinnati, Arkansas, and watched nothing but the Arkansas defense. 4-2-5. Barely had a seventh player in the box. Sometimes they'd rush 5. It was like 80%, 4-2-5. So I think we'll have better luck if we run up against the same thing. And poor Spencer, they're beating him up. If you take away those screen passes, we're terrible. So take away the 2 incompletes, and then he just pitches it to Juju, and we're just going to have to give up that interception with a little too high. But if you take away the 2 incompletes on the screen, because we were terrible, get the Josh Van catch, the pitch to Juju, he's 25 of 35. 70%. Probably 260 yards, 10 yards per play.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe we're going to see a big difference. I'm going to say 7 to 17 points. We're going to win this game this weekend. And if it gets down to 7, that's because they score late. That's how confident I am. I'll listen to you guys.
I appreciate the call. And look, when you look at some of those short passes, by South Carolina, they had some success, but they also missed a lot of them. And that just goes back to what we were talking about before, timing, Joe. Timing. Those little passes, people probably think, all right, those are some of the easiest passes in the world, right? 5 yards, not even. You know, you're in the backfield throwing a little bubble screen or whatever, a little screen to the running back. Those are sometimes the most difficult throws to make because it all comes down to timing. Typically the running back, receiver, they're going to be moving at that time, and it's all about timing. So I think we're going to see the timing, and I keep reiterating it, but the timing just in general, whether it be with Rattler and the receivers, whether it be Rattler and the running backs, tight ends, whether we see with the offensive linemen, and just the timing that Rattler has back there, I think it's going to be different. I think it's going to be noticeably different this week.
Yeah, I mean, that's, again, like we've been talking about week 1, you start to see a different opponent. You're going to start to get some of those timing things down, those communications. I mean, on those screen passes too, it's all about, getting rid of the ball soon enough, making sure everyone's on the same page. So again, that comes with the adjustments and seeing somebody else, seeing a different team, somebody that's really going to get after your quarterback. And so, I mean, yeah, like, again, Mike, you said it before, you'll say it again. Timing is a big thing. And again, we'll come back to it because it's week 1. It's not that big of a deal. Everyone in the country's been going through it. So, I mean, we'll see what happens in Arkansas, but I mean, faith is still high.
All right. Intern Joe, I'm going to disappear him again. He'll come back in just a little bit. Appreciate everyone that is tuned in right now. You are listening to GC Live. Talking Tuesday nights. Call on in if you would like. We have some comments on the side as well. Let us know what you're thinking. Let us know what's in your heart after week 1. Are we downplaying some things here by saying that, okay, the offense, they're going to figure some things out from a timing standpoint this week? Let us know. Let us know. Are you worried about the offensive line? Are you worried about Rattler? Are you worried about something else? Defense? Are you worried about, from a special team standpoint, that South Carolina caught lightning in a bottle? I saw actually a comment about that earlier today. So let us know. Let us know what's going on. You can call into that number right there, 803-567-3796. We'll get you on the program here tonight to talk some Gamecock football. So we're going to continue to roll down here. Again, we're going to have Joe hop back in a little bit to talk about some of the things he heard today because he was at the press conference with the players. He had Coach Beamer speak today. Coordinators are going to be speaking tomorrow. So we will have that as well. But I saw one I just want to go back to here. think Sean mentioned it, saying, I do think Arkansas is beatable. Cincinnati beat themselves with penalties. KJ Jefferson is a stud, but I think he gets rattled when he gets hit too much. And I see Joe over here nodding his head.
Oh yeah.
What you nodding your head about, Joe?
So I mean, that's what we saw. That was the biggest takeaway from the Cincinnati Arkansas game is that KJ Jefferson doesn't like to get hit. I think Arkansas is missing a couple pieces on that offensive line. And if we spread it out with a guy like Birch, the two Jordans at the end, I think that this defensive line can really get to KJ Jefferson. And I mean, it was Brad Johnson was talking about it today, along with Mo Kaba. They were just talking about the keys for the defense. Was just getting 11 heads to the ball, right? Just for a guy that's as big and dynamic as KJ Jefferson is, if you get a lot of bodies on him, he's gonna eventually wear down throughout the process of the game. Because they, they'll run him out, they'll bootleg him out, and then have design runs, a lot of RPOs, similar to kind of what we're doing, a lot similar to what Georgia State was doing in terms of the run game, and translating that into the passing game. But I love that take. I agree. If the Gamecocks can do what Clayton White's been preaching and get 11 halves of the ball, I think there's a really good chance you get to KJ Jefferson and hopefully rattle him a little bit in hopes of the upset.
One thing too, Joe, as we see Tim sends this question in, it's more so of a comment. Any chance we were looking ahead, and like T said, we didn't show a lot last week. We will look a little different this week. I brought this up with Marcus Lattimore, New Belief in South Carolina podcast dropped today. We're actually going to have that on the front page over at Gamecock Central tomorrow, where you guys can read some of that, because there was something in particular that really stood out that Marcus said. As we do each week, we find an angle to share that story, but you can listen to the whole podcast. But if you want a direct link, we'll have that available tomorrow on Gamecock Central. I'll say this, and then I'll let intern Joe share what he thinks about it. I don't know if necessarily they were looking ahead a lot. I think what it had to do more so than anything is just the fact that for the majority of this team, they don't know what handling success looks like. They don't. And that was one of my concerns going into this season, that when you look at the super seniors, right, a Brad Johnson or an Eric Douglas, for example, that's how long ago it's been since these guys have dealt with any real success, quote unquote success at South Carolina. So for the majority of this team, they don't know what handling success looks like. They don't know what a whole city, and granted, the energy right now, much different than we've seen in quite some time in Columbia. They don't know what it's like for people telling them how great they are, and the hype being as high as it's been over the last couple months. I think, if anything, it could be a good thing that they went out there and they didn't necessarily execute the way that they would have liked in some facets of the game. I do feel like having a game like this week one is a good thing, because you're not like Notre Dame versus Ohio State going out there, right? A couple top 10 teams playing, or, Clemson last year against Georgia, or Georgia playing Oregon, right? You have an opportunity to ease into things. Not the same exact way in comparison to last season when you were taking on Eastern Illinois, but this is going to be better for them in the long run. So, Joe, I say all that. Because I feel like this team is in a better position to be prepared next week for multiple reasons. But one of them, I think they just needed that reality check. For a lot of these guys, they just, even a guy like Rattler, and I'm not saying specifically guys like, Rattler needed it, or, this guy needed it. I'm just saying as a whole, as a team. But even a guy like Rattler, this is his first time at South Carolina, a guy that has had a lot of success in his career in terms of wins and losses and all that kind of stuff. This is the first time he's handling it at South Carolina. It's just different. It's different. This is a new process for a lot of these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, this week going into last week, no one really expected Georgia State to, be a cupcake. They upset Tennessee in Knoxville a couple years back. So we knew this program, has potential to do that kind of stuff, and that they weren't necessarily going to be, an FBS like walkover. Going into it, we kind of figured they'd get hit in the mouth a little bit. And I think, teams kind of rallied beyond that. That's kind of the energy that I saw in the presser today too. Everyone's like, yeah, there were mistakes made, but we won. We took it. We're taking it with us in the next week. Because God knows they've got their hands full with Arkansas. So, that's just kind of the energy within the building. And, again, like there is a lot more to learn from this game, I think, and it can be beneficial versus if you were to just, blow out an FBS team. You know, sure, that does numbers for your confidence, but really, are you learning that much when, the freshmen are playing the entire fourth quarter, and the starters are getting out by the end of the blowout? So I don't know, Mike, what are your thoughts on that?
I want to be able to make progress in any shape, way, or form you can.
Yeah.
I think there were a lot of good opportunities at the end of the game for some of these younger guys, but at the end of the day, you just want to be able to get some confidence and momentum. Confidence in a guy like Marshawn Lloyd, who looked like the Marshawn Lloyd that everyone has been waiting to see. He looked like a guy that clearly was not thinking about that knee. That was something that him and we've talked ad nauseum, whether it be on Gamecock Central, whether it be Garnet Trust interviews. That is a guy, even before the season, on August 4th at South Carolina's Media Day, that he had mentioned the biggest difference with him this year in comparison to where he was a year ago, just the mental standpoint. He's not thinking about that knee anymore. Last year, he didn't think he was thinking about that knee, but he was. And until you go through an injury like that, it's really difficult to truly know what it's going to be like. Any lower body injury, but especially a torn ACL. So for him to go out there, have the 2 touchdowns, one on the ground, one through the air, to have a hurdle, jumping over a player like we've seen in his high school highlight reel, to be able to have some of those runs. Did he leave some holes out there on the field? Certainly. He'll tell you that. But I think just bigger picture, he was able to take some hits. He was able to see the labor of his work and just the amount of time that he's put in, whether it be rehabbing that knee, whether it be just going out there and practicing, whatever the case may be. He was able to get rewarded for that. And as corny as that sounds, being able to do that stuff can go a long way in developing that confidence back up to where it needs to be. So the fact that he was able to do that all in week 1, not knowing when Christian Beal-Smith comes back, how much they'll use him right away. If they needed CBS the other night, he would have played. But I think it was a good thing that you didn't have to throw him into the mix, especially coming back from that foot injury. So I say that, Joe, because you have a running back that has confidence now in Marshawn. He had confidence. He could tell you he's had confidence, but he needed to go out there on the field. He needed to be able to go out there on the field to take those hits and be able to have a game like that. Is this a game that, from a national standpoint, people are going to be talking about what Marshawn Lloyd did? No. But what Marshawn did the other night was very, very promising. And he was contributing in ways that I think a lot of people had hoped for when he first arrived here before the injury. But look, he doesn't necessarily need to go out there and have, 100-yard rushing games. It would be great. But to see what he did, the impact he made was great. And I think that's going to be something moving forward to keep an eye on. How does he continue to build off that confidence from week 1?
Yeah, absolutely. And then, I mean, you would hope that the rest of the running back room will get involved too. The return of Christian Beal-Smith will be really nice. Just another guy you can throw in there, kind of give, another look, another dimension to the offense. Bigger guy, more power. And I'm not saying that Marshawn can't do that, but when you have, 2 guys that can kind of do it all, it definitely helps. And confidence, again, it's a big thing. And for a guy like Marshawn, who's, he's talked about it in his pressers, especially over the summer, about how his confidence is back, his swagger's back after having a season like he did, last year, and, just coming back from that ACL and winning, the starting job. It was a big thing for him. So, I think, it'll take a couple games for him to really start to break out a little bit, but, and just to be able to come back from that ACL and perform like he has so far, massive for him, and will be massive going down the road.
Joe, I want to look at this one in particular. And again, if you want to call into the program, let's throw that number up real quick, and then we'll get to this one by Dak Gamecock Guy Podcast, because I think this is an interesting point he brings up. South Carolina didn't win 2 in a row last season. How will they handle a win? I think it's something to bring up for multiple reasons. But again, if you want to call into the program, there's the number, 803-567-3796. Again, 567-3796. It's free. You got nothing better to do. I mean, it's a Tuesday night. I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, I don't even know if there's smoke wings going on at Bar None tonight. So, I mean, come on. Call into the program. Let's talk some Gamecock football. There's the number right there. Joe will have you mandate the phones. Hopefully someone will give a call soon. I mean, I'll tell you what, after the game the other night, intern Joe, we put him to use. Good Lord. Intern Joe was busy. He was busy. He was busy that night. We'll have intern Joe hop on in just a little bit. We'll keep that number up for you if you do want to call on in. Want to go back to this, though. Where is it? Where is that? By that Gamecock Guy podcast. That's an interesting point you bring up. And it's not even about necessarily the way that as we got a call right here, so we'll get back to that point. Hello? Joe, I think I'm screwing things up here with the calls. This is why I got to let you just do it.
All right. Can you hear me?
Joe?
Yeah, I want to know who y'all think going to be the leading receiver for South Carolina in the Arkansas game.
Who will be the leading receiver? I don't know. I mean, I think the receiver room the touches were all spread out. I mean, we didn't see what we thought we were going to from Josh Vann. We did see a pretty good game from Xavier Legette, and also Antoine Wells didn't necessarily have a catch, but the block punt was big. I think that'll be big for his momentum. I don't know, Mike. What you think?
Joe, I'm going to let you fix your audio real quick. I think we got an echo right now coming back, so just double check that real quick. I think what we'll see is, we're going to see a South Carolina team that's going to come out, and they're going to want to be able to build on some of the things that we were talking about before that Gamecock Guy podcast had mentioned. You know, they didn't win 2 games last season. Something that we noticed with South Carolina last year, some of their best performances from an offensive standpoint were coming off either a bye week or they had extra time, right? Whether it be the beginning of the year with the first game against Eastern Illinois last year, or, of course, with Florida coming off a bye week, and, of course, the Duke's Mayo Bowl against North Carolina. So I say all that because that is the outlier when you look at the difference with South Carolina last year with those wins, is that they had extra time to prepare for some of their best offensive performances. Certainly they had wins coming off losses, but what will it take to be able to have a performance like that? Just from a team standpoint, it doesn't even have to necessarily be offense, right? I mean, we mentioned offense right there, but it doesn't even have to be that. Just to be clicking on all 3 phases and all cylinders. So I think what South Carolina is going to have to do this week, you're going to have to be able to attack Arkansas secondary. I think we saw that in the comments section. They have a young secondary. Attack them. You need to be able to do a much better job of stretching the field, because what we've seen in the past with South Carolina before Rattler got here, one of the challenging things that South Carolina had to face is teams did not respect you throwing the football. They didn't. They'd throw an extra guy in the box down there. And they said, all right, hey, look, you want to run the football? Great. We're throwing another guy down here. Good luck. If you don't like that, good. Throw it on us. We don't respect you. So I think it's a little different right now. Georgia State, again, just 1 week. Non-SEC opponent. Speed's going to be a little bit different this week. Facing a team like Arkansas. How does Arkansas attack South Carolina's offense? I think they're going to respect Rattler's throwing abilities. I don't think we'll see as many guys in the box. But, I mean, shoot, it could be the complete opposite of what it was a couple of years ago when Harris led the league in rushing yards in a season, where teams feel like they can stop the run easily on you. And they're going to say, all right, hey, look, throw the football. Throw the football. We're going to put guys back here. We're not worried about you running the ball. We can stop you putting a 4-man front. We could beat you with a 3-man front. We're not worried about you running the football. Good luck. I don't know if that will necessarily be the case this week in Arkansas, but until South Carolina can do that, I think it's something to keep an eye on, because the next week you got Georgia. Georgia's a whole different beast. Georgia has so much speed, and we saw that the other night against Oregon. So you need to more than anything, be able to stretch the field. Because if you can stretch the field, that's going to get that extra guy out of the box, and you're going to be able to run the football, hopefully, much better. Of course, we talk about the offensive line. This is an experienced group, and if they can be able to get things going in the passing game, just being able to block there, it's going to open up the run. I mean, it's not a secret. You don't have to be Vince Lombardi to know that. So that's something that I would keep an eye on. Joe, we're going to keep rolling through this, looking at some of these comments here that have popped up, guys. And I agree, Cam. You know, this will be a team that will be better week by week. I have South Carolina. I've said this before. I said it last week. I've said it in my preseason predictions, Joe, that I have South Carolina starting the year 1-2. Not necessarily because I think the offense, you know, some of the deficiencies you could say the other night, or maybe where they didn't capitalize on in some areas. I do feel like they're going to be a work in progress to start the year. I think that goes without saying. I think we saw it the other night. I think there were some things, though, that I would have liked to see a little bit differently, right? As we alluded to at the top of the program, be able to run the football a little bit better, especially when you need them to get those short yardage situations, right? I think this week what we'll see, though, is that improvement. But I don't necessarily think that will lead to, 30, 40, 50 points, or anything like that. I think the timing will look better. I think we will see the offensive line look more in sync. And I feel like the flow from an offensive standpoint will be better. But I still don't think they're going to be able to beat Arkansas. Then you got Georgia the following week. That's going to be a completely different piece. I think this offense, by week 4, 5, when you're playing Charlotte and SC State, when you got those teams in the mix, I think that's where South Carolina by then is going to be able to pick things up, which is why I can still see this team go on to get 7 wins in the regular season or 8 wins in the regular season. Just because what we see over the next couple weeks, if in fact they do start 1-2, Joe, and the offense isn't fully there, it's not trying to use this thing called an excuse or patience. I know Gamecock fans hate hearing that word, but because it's going to happen, Joe. If this happens, if they were to go 1-2, you watch how quickly people are going to be like, fire this person, this guy's a bum, this and that. I'm not saying that the wins and losses aren't important. That's what college football is about, right? But again, this is year 2. You're trying to find ways to make the progress, trying to be able to turn the ship in the right direction, which it is in the right, but make improvements from week 1. I think that's what we're going to, it's going to be noticeable this week, Joe, is what I'm trying to get at. It's going to be noticeable, even if the win doesn't happen for South Carolina. And I'm not saying that, okay, South Carolina is going to automatically lose. No, anything can happen. It's an 11 a.m. kickoff. I mean, shoot, anything can happen at an 11 a.m. kickoff. So local time. I think we will see improvements, though, and Cam's right. They need time. They need time.
Absolutely. And I mean, like, if last year was any indication of the willingness to fight back for this team, like they went back and forth all year. I think Beamer's he knows how to get his team ready for that next week and to be able to respond back and not carry negative emotions or negative energy into that next week. Being able to flip the switch, reset. It's a different opponent, it's a different week. I think that's one of Beamer's biggest traits as a head coach, and the program's biggest assets going forward is just being able. Doesn't matter who they're playing. I mean, Georgia. Their next 2 weeks are Georgia and Arkansas, 2 of the best teams in the SEC. And so, if no matter what happens out there on Saturday, if they're able to reset in any way, shape, or form, going into Georgia, again, we're sitting here saying the same thing. Like, they can still win that ball game. If anything, we've seen from this program, like they can, they're able to, just get back to square one, going into different opponents and treat every opponent differently as well. So yeah, I mean, I agree with the fact that they're just going to keep getting better and better each week, and just building on the wins from the week before, and learning from the negatives.
Joe, I want to take a look at this comment from SC Scout Guy. Do you think our success on special teams by blocking the punts and faking field goals, etc., is making Arkansas spend extra time on protecting against that and taking away? No question about it. I think this happens regardless, because when you're going up against a Beamer squad, and if you follow college football, you would have known that Pete Lembo has had a lot of success in special teams. And coaches know that. This is actually a point that I'm going to be bringing up on Quick Slants on Thursday on Gamecock Central, and I'll get into it a little bit more. Because you blocked 2 kicks this past week, Arkansas is going to do everything they can to stay a little bit longer when it comes to protecting the kick, making sure that the kick's off. Because of that, it slows down gunners getting downfield. This week, I don't know if South Carolina gets a block. I think this week South Carolina has a huge return on punt. You see this happen a lot in college football. You see this happen in the NFL. When teams know that the other team has had success rushing the punt, all right, they're gonna keep guys there a little bit longer. And all it takes is that 0.1, 0.2 set, whatever the case may be. And that can make a difference between a 10-yard return or a 30, 40-yard return. I think this is the week, whether it be Josh Vann, whether it be Marion Brown. I know that we've seen a little bit, and all that comes from a timing standpoint. I mean, DeCarrion Joyner, more so kickoff returns. He's out there this week. You can see a guy like Juice Wells back there. But my whole point is, regardless of who the guy is, Juju is being able to break one, a big return. I think that's what we're going to see this week. I think Arkansas realizes that South Carolina to this week. Joe, want to take this call?
Yeah, I got you, Chief. How's it going? You're live on Gamecock Central Talking Tuesday nights.
Call from
Brianna.
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press.
How's it going? You're live on.
What's going on?
Hi, Mike. Yeah, it's Brianna, Lady Bree, MMA fighter. I'm just calling in. A lot of the talking since we got back to special teams is on, I hear Beamer Ball 2.0, and then the media is immediately going, yeah, but, we got to thank Coach Lembo. And I feel like we're taking away a little bit of Coach Beamer's shine there. You had mentioned that, he brought in Coach Lembo. It's like, hey, he hired the guy. He felt the need that was something he needed to highlight. And I don't think we should cheapen Coach Beamer's idea there. Also, let's stop giving Coach Lembo away. Everybody's going, he's going away. He's going to be a head coach. Let's stop talking about that. Let's keep Coach Lembo right where he is. He's doing an amazing job. So, that was it. I keep hearing that in several of the media outlets, and I'm just like, no, guys, let's quit giving away our coach, and let's also quit. Every time it's like I feel like it's like the immediate mention. Hey, but don't forget about Coach Lembo. I think we all know he's doing a great job, and I also think we have to really credit that Beamer family for that Beamer 2.0 that we're seeing.
I think it's going to be natural when you see Lembo, who has had head coaching experience at the FBS level. He's had success from respect. People are going to say, okay, what is Pete Lembo doing? And he's had success wherever he's gone, right? So I say that because that's going to happen. But you know what? That's a sign of creating something special from program standpoint. I don't think Lembo's going anywhere anytime soon.
And that's a I hope. I think all of our coaches are total rock stars. Even Coach Satterfield, I know it's like he's always under the act. I wish people would already just kind of let that go. It's like quit putting the pressure on the guy. I would like to see him stay another year regardless of how things are quite going this year. I feel like, Coach Beamer's put all the right guys in place, and, he's got some of them, like I said, in the message. Coach White and Coach Jody Wright, man, those guys, they get in the media room and they are electric on fire when they're talking to the media. Coach Wright's so funny.
And Coach White, man, that guy, he just, when he hears something from the media, he'll give him that look like, oh, come on, did you really say that? You're gonna make me, And they rival Coach Beamer, and they make him shine as well. I think our staff is amazing. I don't want to see any of them going anywhere. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. And I really, Coach Beamer is amazing, and his vision is coming to life through all of his coaches and his coordinators.
Awesome. Appreciate you calling.
I think the audio is getting a little, so we appreciate you calling in. But no, I agree. I agree with you. I think, look, there's a reason why certain coaches are here, right? In terms of what you're trying to do. We keep hearing all the fancy buzzwords. I say fancy buzzwords, but it's the buzzwords we hear all the time. Culture, this, that. That's part of it. Say this though, as we get ready to wrap things up in a little bit. And I apologize if we weren't able to get to everyone's questions tonight. Happy says, also, I noticed that when we were attempting to run the ball, when Georgia State had 8 minutes, that happened without the OC or Rattler changing the play. It goes back to teams. And I said this before on the ball a little bit. I'm not going to be shocked to see teams, South Carolina, though, to throw the football by saying, hey, we're going to put some guys in the box. Until you can create that of being a team that can throw the ball downfield. I'm trying to make that. I said this clearly earlier because I know it could be misconstrued based on what I'm saying now. To that point, it should happen, you would assume, because Rattler has the arm. We know how talented he is. But at the same time, too, he's playing for South Carolina now. Can he do it for the Gamecocks? And he's able to do that. Teams will respect. 11 a.m. kickoff. Yep. For what it's worth. Yep. 11 a.m. local time. Brutal. I say local time, 11 a.m. out there, of course. Noon here. That's going to be bad. I know we had some injury talks. We have that on Gamecock Central, so I apologize being able to see that. I know Kimberly asked that. A couple Gamecocks are banged up. Coach Beamer mentioned that available on Gamecock Central's website. Let's see. Yeah, we're having some issues with the audio and some freezing. We'll get that corrected, guys, moving forward for Saturday night. Work. This is my dinner break right now. So this is what I'm doing, getting ready to go on air at 8 o'clock. So we're going to wrap things up right now. Back up here. Appreciate you guys joining us tonight. Intern Joe, appreciate you being here with us. If you missed any of our program tonight, at our YouTube page at Gamecock Central, have a chance to be able to catch up with a lot of stuff. And there's a lot of new video content on that YouTube page. There'll be a lot of great things going on. And we will see you after the game on Saturday on GC Live post game.